All right, I'll now open the Traffic and Public Safety meeting on April 25th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Melanie, please, could I have roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Dolzall,
Here.
Commissioner Litke. Here. Commissioner Parson. Commissioner Dobbs,
Here.
Commissioner Owens,
Here.
Commissioner Sedgberg,
Here.
and Chair Moriarty.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to community comments. Do we have any?
Nope, we don't have anyone.
Ooh, all right. Move right on to the consent agenda. That was easy.
Yeah,
Excellent. Do I have a motion to approve the March 28th, 2023 meeting minutes?
Make the motion.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
So second.
yes, you do.
Yes,
You
okay,
have a first and second.
okay, excellent. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
I
Excellent. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the presentation and reports. All
And
right.
I will just share that Lieutenant Mendoza is out of town this week. And so he's not able to be here, but he put together the report that was in the packet to share with you. So if you have any questions, I could take those back to him, or it's just kind of an update on what's been going on and around town and things they've been working on.
have a quick question.
Go ahead.
if That's okay.
Absolutely.
How often should we expect somebody from CCSO to be here?
The plan is for them to be here every time.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Okay,
How many times have they been? Twice.
January.
was either twice or 3 times.
Yeah, I think.
I think one was Zoom.
Yeah, you're
January
right.
was here. Yeah. So that is the intention, and so I'm working on the schedule for that.
That was Zoom way late. That's when we left the ball.
Yeah. It was at the beginning, I think, the first 3 meetings or something like that.
Does anyone else have anything on that report? Any questions to relay back to the chief?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, I'm trying to see if I can see hands, that's all. My apologies. All right, moving on to committee business. Last night we had the city council and traffic and public safety workshop. Thought that was good. I appreciate everyone coming out for that. That was informative, but again, that was didn't know that was going to go 45 minutes and then have 15 minutes for questions.
Yeah,
But did everyone relay their questions to Taylor or Melanie?
John has a question.
Go ahead, John.
Not yet, but when, I can't remember who made the comment, but both the stakeholder meeting, which was 2 hours and went like 2.5, and the workshop, there was no time for questions at all, and there's a million of them. So, and I know someone brought that up, but just to reiterate, that's what's the point of having these
Right.
community meetings if you're not getting feedback from the community?
Yeah. I agree. I think it was also brought up that they wanted another meeting with us in the council so that we could hear the rest of it and go over questions. So I hope I think they did. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, we requested it to be a follow-up meeting, and I believe the intent, Melanie, was to include the traffic and public safety in that meeting. So,
Yeah, because it felt like we got half of it and then we didn't get the other half in detail and then we didn't have time to ask questions. So
it might be a good idea to schedule a separate workshop out so we don't run into a council meeting the next day, so that way we can make sure we get, since there's only gonna be one more meeting on that, correct?
One more, I think, was planned with the consultant, but we could hold a workshop, and, if my concern is taking up 2 or 3 hours of folks' time when we could just get the information out, answer any questions about the process, and let people give us, send in feedback. But if you want to do like a workshop where you're all talking about it together. We could schedule it. If somebody can't stay the whole time, that's how it is, but.
Yeah, that might be a good idea because I think there's a lot of questions. I saw people writing a lot of things down and it sounds like they got questions that didn't get answered. So if we could get a meeting where we can get all of us together in the same room, we don't need the consultants there if we can answer the questions. Otherwise, if we can get them there, it's great. But I think it's to get, because the decision comes down to recommendations from the different committees, but it's the final decision of the council that we have to vote on to send it up to the state. So it's most important is to get their feedback to the council so that we can figure that out. So I think 2 hours is probably going to make sense just based upon, one question always leads to another. So
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I'm sure John and Carrie have some from the stakeholders meeting. I'm sure you guys have a few more questions than we do, but I definitely have some other ones.
Well, that stakeholder meeting, those 2.5 hours was why I had any idea what was going on in the
Mhm.
workshop. Because there is so much information. It's mind numbing. And having the colored map really helped a lot too, because I printed the stuff out and so couldn't tell the different coding, but then once you could see the colors, you could see where they were talking about. I'd also be very interested to know, I'm not going to make something high priority if I know the developer has to do it. And so what's the timeline on that kind of stuff? The different projects and that would be helpful. Because I don't want to waste a priority on something that's going to happen as soon as
That's probably a good question because
Yeah.
my understanding is if we don't make it a high priority, if it drops off the list, the developer doesn't have to do it. And so we have to keep, like, if they're a priority, it needs to
Whoa.
stay in there so that it's in the plan. But I could be wrong on that. So we could ask Taylor, but whether,
isn't it what the developers have to do based upon backed up by ordinances and code? So versus the priorities of the projects that we're supposed to work on. Did I misunderstand that from the meeting? Because I took it as, well, these are the projects and priorities we're going to work on. But if it's something that the developer has to do, we got to have a code behind it. Otherwise
maybe
it
I
gets-
misunderstood that. I thought that they needed to stay in the plan, but
Probably should get that cleared up.
Yeah, that'd be definitely good to clear, but the way my understanding is a developer's not going to do something unless there's a law behind it that says they have to do it. A code, or an ordinance, something. So that would be different, I think, than a project priority.
Let me find out about that.
So
Yeah,
unless that project was to rewrite a code.
well, this plan does impact our code. So, yeah, let me get that question answered too.
All right, we all good on that one?
Looks like it.
Questions and okay. Oh, and I apologize. Welcome, Heath. Appreciate it. Nice seeing you again. Welcome to the committee. Appreciate you putting in for it.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. All right, moving on to, let's see. Introduction to the Estacada School Board meeting. Brandy and Casey.
Casey, you can go first.
Yeah, well, I didn't do any talking at the meeting. Brandy was the one that kind of represented our group. But we didn't have the authority to like talk really much about them getting more school resource officers. That's something the city council's got to take up. So we just kind of talked to them and let them know, or Brandy did, that, we're here, introduced us who we were as a committee, what our goals were, that we would like to work with them, and we didn't get any of that done until the end of the meeting. So we only had 3 minutes, I think, and so there's not a whole lot you can say in a 3-minute, dissertation, but she did a good job. And so I'll let her talk about how she went about that.
Yeah, it was hard. Thank you, by the way. We had to wait till the very end of the meeting and it was quite long from what I remember. Yeah, it was 2 hours. I don't know, it was hard. Before the meeting, we talked to the assistant to the superintendent for a few minutes. And she mentioned that we could technically get on their agenda. We just need to email her and let her know we're interested in presenting, and then we can get more time. And I think that's a really good idea. But it has, I believe it would have to come from you, Jim, to do that.
Okay.
So I think we should probably do that if we could. I don't know if we need a vote on that, or we just need a, yeah, we all want to do that. But I do think that that is important because I couldn't get a lot out in that couple of minutes. I did introduce us. I said, hey, you know, a lot of our goals line up with what you guys, it involves you guys. And since we're from the city and we're not the same, we would love to work with you. And then I thanked them for Superintendent Carpenter coming, and said we were really excited to have him, and mentioned like our top priority is crosswalks and school crossings and the safety there, and the safety of our kids is top of our minds. And I mentioned a few other things that, you know, we really think it would be great if they opened up an office for each school, just so that officers could stop by and maybe do paperwork, because they have offices at the church. And, you know, I think it makes more sense. That church is a little bit outside town. It would make a lot more sense to have it here in town and also have a police presence in our schools. I didn't get much feedback. They didn't really say much. The only thing I heard was, well, they're from the city, right? And that's all I heard. So I don't know what they feel about it or if they're receptive to it. I think maybe giving a presentation would help with that. That's all I got to say. And Joel wants to, or Counselor Licky wants to ask a question.
So something to consider before you go.
Uh-oh.
Your dogs.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Something to consider before going to back to the school board might be to during the meeting that we're gonna try to have with the council. Maybe we can block a little extra time in there to talk about some things you want to bring up with the school board and see if you get the kind of the blessing and the backing of the council on those concepts. So you know you're going with the full support of your what you guys want to do to the school board, saying, hey, we spoke to the council, they're on board for this, they send their backing behind it. And it might bring more weight to it and more confidence in what you're putting there versus, hey, we want to do this, but the council hasn't voted or hasn't said yes or no, or, you know, hasn't given consensus or something. So it'll be something good on waiting to go back until you get that.
And John has something to say.
And also during the stakeholder meeting, when they were talking about bicycles,
Mhm.
we asked about kids riding their bikes at school. Was there any kind of, you know, is there any have they quantified that at all? And what changes might they expect within the neighborhood, and what changes might they expect with improvements in bike lanes for school routes? I mean, I don't know where, I mean, like close by, I think they said a mile or something like that. I don't know how that would affect downtown, or if it's necessary for bike lanes downtown versus, you know, up the hill or that sort of thing. So places where kids live, making those a priority, the bike lane, so that they can ride their bike safely. So I think that's a great idea to get together first, so that we've got a consolidated list of topics to then go boom, boom, boom on.
Yeah, I agree, because it was hard going in there knowing like we technically have no authority. We're just kind of letting them know what we think in our scope of traffic and public safety and what our thoughts are. And I do agree. I think if we had the council's blessing with things and they agreed to some of the stuff that we wanted to do, we'd have a lot more weight behind us. I think it would make them listen to us a little bit harder, if that makes sense.
That sounds good. Council Licky, we can everyone's obviously in agreement with that, right? Agreement with that?
You're getting shaking
Yeah.
heads.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. I'm sure we can set something up there and get the council's blessing and move forward and collaborate with the school district. That sounds good. All right, anyone else on the school board or questions they would like to give Brandy and myself and Casey at the next meeting? But okay, all kidding aside, moving on to Next topic in committee business, our Facebook page. My apologies, I haven't crafted up anything to send to either Melanie or Mitch for the Facebook page. I've just been meaning to do that. I just haven't been able to do that yet. But I think all the topics that we had were, what we've been doing and what we've accomplished, and more importantly, Neighborhood Watch and that link, and maybe our traffic study on Shafford, and then the traffic control devices can be all different posts. What does everyone think?
Yeah, I agree. I did notice that we already had a post or two put up there, so that was really cool to see. I think a question I would have is, I noticed, was it last week that the city, just the city's Facebook posted about somebody they were looking for that committed a crime. Is there a way that we can have it posted to our committee's Facebook too when that happens? Because it kind of fits in with our theme. Does that make sense?
I tried very hard to get it posted to the,
Oh, yeah.
that page. But the main page in our group is the city page,
Mhm.
and Facebook gives me fits. But it would only, like, I went to the hardware stores, but I should have just like copied and pasted their text. Maybe I could have done that and made a post of it. But I was trying to share from the hardware store, and it only would let me share on the main page. So then I tried to share from the city page. I'm like, fine, I'll share from the city page and pick the traffic and public safety page to share it to. And I couldn't find a way to do it. So I apologize. I tried to do that, and I guess I could have downloaded their picture and copied their text and made a brand new post about it. I probably should have done that. That would have been the workaround. But I
Yeah.
did try to get it on that page, and I just ran out of time for it.
Well, it's in your mind, so that's what we're on the same page there.
And the other posts, I tried to just do some general safety posts, since I know you guys are busy, and like to figure out what you want to say on there is probably like towards the bottom of your list. But I tried to just do some general, like move over for flashing lights, kind of, that was coming out from ODOT, and I can't remember what else we did, but.
Yeah. Jim, Counselor Licky has a question.
Go ahead, Counselor. Thank you.
A couple ideas on there to do for Melody can throw up to, possibly if you guys are in agreement, would be Clackamas County has some resources through the website, like you can do warrant checks and things like that. That's open to the public to grab. So might be good to link some of those resources through the Facebook page. Or if they're there, they can click right into them. That's just simple stuff that they have for common tools that they use. And the second thing would be is Facebook, I think, has a tab or something you can put on called an FAQ tab, that some of those common questions she was mentioning might be able to put them on there. So
On how to do it.
how to do some things, or whatever common questions may come up a lot more. You can start to develop more time and drop things in there. How do you report a crime, etc. So
That sounds good. Thank you, Counselor. Sorry, I'm taking notes here. All right, excellent. Anyone else have anything else on Facebook and what we need to send to Mitch or Melanie in the future?
John has one.
You mentioned the link to the sheriff's department.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so that one page that has all the stats, is that what you were talking about?
that's a good one to put on there. That'd be one. There's other
Okay.
resources as well, like through their jail, you can see who's in jail and things like that. So
So
this
that's
stuff
that
that
page
people
that shows all
use.
the, right?
Okay, excellent. Thank you, John. Let's see, moving on to the National Night Out permit. Melanie, I was gonna call you on this, but I just wanted to know if, I know Taryn received it, and I just wanted to know if everything was good over there in the parking lot across the street from the fire station.
Yes, I believe I signed off on that. You didn't hear back from Taryn? I'll check with her about that.
I think she just said received, and that's all I remember, but I could be
Oh,
wrong.
okay.
So if you give it,
Maybe it's like an automatic thing,
okay,
unless I don't sign it and then they say, sorry, it wasn't approved. But I'll let her I'll check with her so she can confirm that. or
Okay.
How that process goes.
All right. Thank you. And I guess we can, going through what they've sent. I don't know if they've sent anything to City Hall, but I put City Hall as the address to receive information on National Night Out, since we're a city entity under the city council. So hopefully you'll be receiving a packet and some information on, what they do and how they collaborate with the community and law enforcement. And we can probably the next meeting get on doing volunteer lists and some things for the kids and how many hamburgers and hot dogs to buy, and we can go from there. Does that sound okay, everyone?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Since we have a location now, we
Yes.
know the location and we know the time and the day, can we individually go out and maybe talk to some of the local businesses and see if they're interested in, maybe providing food or helping us with this event? We have the authority to do that, or do we have to go through certain steps? We can do that.
You're asking me? Oh.
I looked at both of you.
Oh. I think that's
Yeah,
great,
I
yeah.
don't think they need the council for anything.
No, if you can get groups or businesses or local nonprofits to participate, or I know there could be a lot of people that want to participate, have a table. If they want to make donation of, maybe they want to provide the hot dogs or something, that's fine. I think you budgeted for that, but if you want to, however you want to start.
I think the big thing is just don't make any promises or contracts on behalf of the city. I think you're good.
Right.
Could we possibly maybe make a post on our Facebook page and say, hey, we're hosting National Night Out this year. This is when it's happening and where. Any businesses or groups interested in helping out, please reach out to us. Could we do something like that? Cool.
Yeah, and I'll just put the general committee email on there, so that would go to Jim.
Perfect.
Okay.
He could share it out with you, and I'll keep an eye out for anything that might be coming into City Hall from National Night Out. I haven't seen anything yet, but
Okay, thank you. They
I'll
said
let
it
them-
would be, I don't know. I did it about 3 weeks ago. They said it would be like 4 to 6 weeks or something.
okay.
So I don't know how long it's been. I can't remember. But thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, let's see. All right, Eagle Creek, moving on to the next committee business. The Eagle Creek and Barton CPO meeting. That was it a week ago here? Let's see,
Week and a half, yeah, week and a half. I think.
on the 13th. So we had, I attended the meeting. We had a couple of city councilors there, and we had some city employees there. Melanie and Lena were there. And hopefully everyone was able to decipher what was in the packets. And as you can imagine, I know Councilor Licky can help me with this, but the general concern, and definitely everybody there, all the property owners in that intersection, whether it be the antique store or the neighbors on either side, were extremely concerned with how far the circle is moving into, excuse me, into the tree lot. Because when you're coming down Amsiger to 224 and then negotiating a left into Estacada, they don't want to, there's a small creek there, and they don't want to have the circle encroach on that. And therefore they would go over their $5.4 million that's allotted to that project. So they're pushing the circle across the street into the Christmas tree field. And I'm going to say it taking about a third of the parking lot, correct me if I'm wrong, Counselor, of the
All right.
business there. So it was an interesting meeting. The gentleman there was Melanie, was he ODOT or Clackamas County? I forget.
Clackamas County.
Clackamas County. It was, the construction's gonna, I believe, start spring of 2024. lot of questions and concerns about the construction, which way you're gonna go. 224 is a major artery for everybody to go to work in Clackamas or Portland. So that was pretty interesting. There was talks about the landowners suing the county and the state. I mean, it had everything. It was a full, complete movie. Let's just say that. It had everything in it. Topics brought up like large vehicles, 18-wheelers, log trucks, trucks with trailers, people that do that every day. But in the summertime, concern was brought up. You have people that are recreational vehicle owners, boat haulers, people that camp in Estacada were coming down to Estacada that don't generally drive something that's large, long like that too. And let's see, that was what I say, 5.4 million was allotted to that. And it says the completion, I believe, is summer of 2025. And another concern was, why didn't you do the signal? The signal's cheaper, but they said it's costlier to maintain future moving forward. If they would have just put a light in there, their concern, or the engineer's concern, was people are gonna run a red light. Okay, I get that, but you know, it was just, it was odd. And then he alluded to later on, before we got to the Deuce Road, Eagle Creek intersection, that it's pretty much a done deal. You know, and the residents there in Eagle Creek and Barton were asking, well, can we contact someone from the state? Since it's a state road, but Clackamas County has to get a permit in order to do the design there or do the construction. And that was a big concern, because he said, well, I will email everyone. I will make sure if you had a concern, but the engineer at the state level won't get back to anybody. So, Counselor, did I leave anything out on the first section there?
I don't think so. I know that it didn't ping on the antique business there. They'd have to reroute their entire parking lot from around behind the building. There was a big issue and concern there of how that's going to affect that business. And then it does, I think, impacted one of the house on the other side in their driveway. And so that was a question too, how that was going to affect it. It's a 2-lane roundabout, so it's double lane wide. That's why it's so big. So I think that was the biggest things there. So on that piece.
Okay. Excellent, thank you. And then the other section, let's see. Oh, the other things that the citizens brought up was, well, what happens if there's a wreck at the roundabout? And the response was, well, what happens if there's a wreck at Amsinger and 224? Everything's going to be shut down. So that won't change. Odd question, odd answer, but nevertheless, it was, you know, the bus stop has to be relocated. I guess there's a bus stop right there also that needs to be changed.
Yeah.
And like Council Licky said about the design, I guess the big concern is it's a historical building, the antique. So that there's nothing going to be done about that. But on the church side, they're going to have the driveway go around and then into the parking lot. So they'd have to go around, not only having the circle in their Christmas tree farm or the property across the street, but then have to go into the other side of the building, into the Christmas tree farm, into the back of the business, over to the parking lot. So there's a lot of moving pieces there. Let's see. And they talked about what happens every day. That was, I guess, the biggest takeaway from going to the meeting, is to hear you know, them ask questions about setbacks, and they have concerns about speeding every day because they see it. You know, they live there, they have a business there, and it's a great concern. Let's see. And then does anyone have any questions on that? Sorry.
Carrie has one.
Yeah, so on this thing,
Gary.
Tim, Hey, the question on what is the speed limit supposed to be through there? Did anybody talk about that?
I believe it was 45 now,
Mhm.
and it will go to, I'm trying to remember, I don't see it in my notes, but I think it's gonna go down to 20 or 15. So it's gonna be a significant, there's gonna be a driveway there on that part of, when you go out, when you approach Amsiger from Estacada and take a right, that driveway is gonna be, extended out to the circle. And I'm hoping, I don't know how far back, the sign's gonna go, or if they just replace the sign there, but it's gonna go down from probably 45, down probably by Douglas Ridge, and then approaching Amsiger, probably 15 to 20. Because I think when they discussed that in the video, they showed us some of the log trucks negotiating the same angle as this projected roundabout. Yeah, it looked good on the video, but like I said, we have people that are recreational drivers, not professional drivers. So hopefully, it'll work out. But I think 15, Kerry, was what I remember.
So are they shoving that towards the west to stay away from that waterway?
Yes.
Is that what's happening?
Yes, because they don't want to encroach and do a widening, I think, on that. They calling it a bridge, but it's the creek, and it's just a little overpass on that creek there. And that would obviously make it more than the 5.4 million, having to do the environmental study and all the other things that they're gonna have to incur the cost on. I mean, like Council Licky said, if they're gonna have to do, make right with the driveway there and make a driveway on the other side, that's another cost to Clackamas County or the state that by putting another driveway in. So that would automatically put it up, from 5.4 and up.
So was there just in this meeting, was this a simulated thing that you're watching as far as how that, or was it a drawing, or what did they, how was that? I mean,
The handouts that we had were what I gave to Melanie that were in the packets, from the eastbound and whatnot, but the simulations was something that they had a truck driver drive in an empty lot. And he was driving correct me if I'm wrong here, the circumference, approach the roundabout and then go halfway around and then continue, northbound. Yeah.
okay, just curious.
So that was, but there was no truck or 18-wheeler log truck going in a roundabout. It was just, he was negotiating the angle of what they proposed to build there at Amsiger.
Is that thing online somewhere where you can see it? What you guys saw?
I was just looking. at it. It's not on the Amsiger project.
It's
page.
not on the Melanie.
No, it's not. The county has the Amsiger Road at Highway 224 intersection improvements page. And I was just looking to see if that test run was there.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't see it at all.
but I can definitely email them, Carrie, if you want. I can send that to Melanie and she could send it out to the committee.
I'm checking it here from the counselor.
Okay,
I would like to see that personally, if you want to email that to us, would everybody else like to see that?
Is this what you're talking about? Where they had the 4 slides? You can't make anything out. It's too.
There should be more than 4 slides on that. They
Well,
can-
no, there is, but like on this page, they've made a page of.
If you get it digitally, I think you can zoom into that, so that's what he's
You
doing here.
can- It's a little blurry.
it's
The-
under, go ahead,
the-
Melanie, sorry.
Is that what you had? Did you print that out, John? Or-
Yes.
Okay, because Brandy has what I got from Jim that might be less blurry because it's not scanned. See if it's better.
It's
It's still
just under-
small, but.
it's
It's really,
design
it's
text.
really small, but it's not blurry on here.
So on the county page, they have the presentation to the Eagle Creek Barton CPO from. Oh, they have it, they already have it up there.
Oh, so it is up there.
Yeah, so you can look at the. Present, not like the trucks driving around the little test run. I don't see that. But you can go to I'll just send out a link right now.
I
Thank
think
you,
I
Melanie.
also got the big picture that they had there, Melanie. Yeah,
hold
the big one. I took a digital image of that while I was there, so I have that
Okay,
as well. I can send you.
they do have, oh, it doesn't go. So he had like a video that went, which showed the trucks going.
Mhm.
And they have like you can see it on the slide, but I can't make it play.
Bring it to
Um,
life.
I think if you reach out to Brent, Melanie, that he has the copy of that slideshow. He said he had a copy of it, I believe.
Okay, well, this slide, I'm gonna email it to y'all right now.
Oh, cool.
Thank
Can
you.
I ask a question, Jim, of those who were there at the meeting?
Absolutely.
First, I have a couple questions, actually. First, was this like, did they basically say they're doing this regardless of what people think, or they're still trying to get input and might change their minds?
They did say that they were going to, and I'm just trying to look at it here on my computer, that they did want to talk more with neighbors. And again, they had everyone there, but they
I
yeah,
think-
individually contact with property owners. So they did say that, yes. I don't
I
know.
think-
Go ahead.
I say, I think the words that they used was that the roundabout is a done deal. They're just talking to neighbors to work out the fine details of, where it affects property and things like that. But they said, people asked, well, do we have a say in traffic light or roundabout? And the guy said pretty much it's a done deal. They're just fine tuning it at this point.
My other question would be, it kind of comes back to the TSP that we were talking about yesterday. I know it was discussed right out here on Broadway. Was it Broadway or Main? Maybe it was Main and the highway that they were talking about doing a roundabout,
211 and 224.
211 and 224, where they're talking about doing a roundabout. I would maybe, when we have our next meeting, we can encourage council to really think about that, because if they're getting this much blowback up there on Amsiger, and 224, maybe at least take people's, what they think and how they feel before making a final decision, because it feels really harsh to make that decision and then say, well, you're getting a roundabout whether you like it or not, but here you go, here's some, and then John has one, and then Jim, you're the chair.
Go ahead, John.
I've got some experience with the big roundabouts out in Wickenburg on Highway 60. But what I specifically remember about it, it was in the desert and it was gigantic. It's heavily trafficked. It's one of the main routes between Phoenix and Las Vegas. And so it's heavily trafficked. It's got fifth wheels, it's got tractor trailers, it's got the whole 9 yards. And they definitely were going slower, but it worked, but it was gigantic.
Mhm,
And I try to visualize something like that, because that's what you would need,
mhm,
because of the type of vehicles we get here. There's no room.
mm-mm.
There's no way on earth it's going by the bridge. And I can't imagine it anything big enough to be able to handle that kind of traffic over at that corner. It's just because they need to be massive in order to be efficient and safe. And so what happens when they realize that doesn't work?
Mhm.
Then what?
Yeah,
It's shove it down your throats is kind of been the approach of the state, but so I'll digress on that one.
Where's?
Carrie has a question too. Jim.
Go ahead, Carrie.
It's probably right in front of my face, but where's a roundabout around here that works? Anybody know?
There's one off that Clackamas River Road as you're coming into Oregon City.
Right, that one.
That one's the
that's a
only one I
small
know of.
That's
Yeah.
a little guy.
Mhm.
And
But-
there's one also, as you're going out towards, going out through the curves and you go up to Tong Road and you're take a left, and then you go towards Fred Meyer there. There's one in Happy Valley. There's one at the top of the hill, but there's like two houses there.
Right,
So,
yeah.
Again, not another great example. Does it
Right.
work? Yes, but it's like what John's example. It's huge. There's a dead end on one side. And then it continues on towards, retail properties. So there's,
Was that projected of the size? Did anybody get that picture? I mean, because what John's talking about is like a commercial highway where you've got
Mhm.
large vehicles. These guys are more residential stuff.
right. No, the one in Happy Valley, that one, it's pretty large and it sits right on the top of a hill. So
Yeah,
it's a lot different from where you're gonna stick it into, 4 or 5 properties in Amsiger and 224.
Right.
Hey, Jim, what was the one that Brent Perry's was talking about? He said he's got these really the longest low boys in the county, I think he said. And he drives somewhere over, is it North Plains? Where his run is, and they go around roundabouts over there, and he says it works just fine. But I don't remember where that was
That's
at.
out what east, right? Oh, Washington,
Where is that?
and
But
I.
they
think-
must be really
Go ahead.
big.
Right,
I'm passing around to see you know, you're aware, Jim. The
okay,
one we took at the meeting there, where you can actually see the current road now and where the projected one's supposed to go. I'm
It's-
passing that around to them to
Yeah.
look at now.
It's
So-
Thank
amazing
you.
to see that because
It-
it takes over so much land.
it's
No,
like
like I said-
road was here, now it's here, and it's like taking up the whole.
Yeah.
They think of their design according to what they have there is consider it, think about the width of that we have the new bridge out here. Minus sidewalks, or actually with the sidewalks, actually. Think of that width all around the circle, and that's supposed to be 2 lanes, basically. It's a 2-lane road width going around the circle. And so, I mean, theoretically, yeah, you can get big vehicles through there, but they're gonna cut the corners. And so if someone's in the center there, that's gonna potentially cause issues and their problems and things like that. But I mean, it is a wide one, but it's because they're putting 2 lanes on there, is what the plan is. So,
Well, I guess since we don't have much of a say about it, I think it's a good way to learn our lesson now so we don't repeat the mistakes. Maybe we can just at
Like,
least
don't
talk
make
about
it-
it. It's right here.
Out in the Tri-Cities area, I go out there frequently for work. There's multiple roundabouts in that area,
Mhm.
right in the mix with retail, right off the main freeway. I haven't sat and watched it. Maybe I need to do that next time I'm out there and see what that looks like from some of the big rigs going through there. So that would be something I could take a look at, but they're everywhere out there. There's tons of
Yeah.
them.
the CPO president, Brent, recommended to look at the North Plain roundabouts for an idea and comparison, because he says he's driven those and he has big boy haulers he takes through there. That's what he recommended to take a look at, or to get an idea, so.
Awesome, thank you.
Hmm.
So with Brandy's recommendation, do you think we should put it out to the public on a survey? And ask people if we want to do a big, huge roundabout at the 211 and 224 here in Estacada?
Why
I
not?
don't think you need a survey for that.
I mean, so we have something to go by, and just not pulling it out of the hat, It's up to everyone, it's just an idea.
I think it's important to also look at what the purpose would be, because they're saying for that, because if you have a stoplight, but they're saying for evacuation purposes, but in evacuation purposes, typically you have somebody there, I think, moving traffic through a
Yeah.
stoplight,
Yeah.
not resetting it. And when we talked about the roundabout back in 2012, the ODOT folks at that point were saying there wasn't enough room there.
Mhm.
And I was looking at it going, there's plenty of room there for a roundabout, but now that I really see how big they are, I don't know that they're, so I think, was it you or Paul last night mentioned maybe just put intersection improvement and not identify what it is, because
That-
it really
that's
needs to
Paul.
be tested out.
It was Paul, and I think it's a good idea, even though, I mean, you only really got two options.
Well, yeah,
So,
yeah.
another idea could be, to look at other, there's other traffic control devices you can do there, such as, single lane throughs, throughputs and with stop signs or turning, things like that you can do that allows for better traffic flow that doesn't require that and doesn't change out the width of the lanes. So there are things you can do on that, but that's and a study could be done there if we're worried about concern. For example, you could do a stop sign coming down off the mountain and a through lane on the other side. Left turn lane coming out of there with a stop sign, right turn without stopping. And either through going up or another stop sign there. This alternative you can do going through on that one. Without ever doing a light or a roundabout, doesn't change the width of the lanes, still fixes the problem of traffic flow. I
Might be
mean,
less
that's just off the
expensive.
top of my head, so.
Would be less expensive.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you, Counselor. Let's see, anyone else on, oh, I'm sorry. All right. Second part of that. Sorry, I got a couple different pages here. The second half of the meeting, or sorry, the middle third of the meeting had to do with the Deuce Eagle Creek Road construction project. That would be, just looking at it right here, when you're coming into town, into Estacada, and they want to make a left lane so you can negotiate up to all the beautiful new houses up there in Estacada, and then all the coming down Deuce Road and then coming into Estacada, that would be a left lane headed into town. So primarily the 1.6 million would be for no signal, no roundabout, taking 6 feet on either side of the road there. And making sure you have 6 feet of road, 6 feet there, and all the neighbors were there in the at the meeting, and they were able to ask questions in regards to PG&E poles. I guess it was the big one, because they wanted 10 feet easement on either side of the pole, so that was going to be a concern. But there really wasn't much to talk about in regards to that construction. Did I leave anything out, Melanie, on that one?
I think that was pretty straightforward.
It was pretty straightforward,
I
right?
was gone by
Oh,
then.
you were gone by then. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Was it? Yeah. That one was, I don't think it was nearly as contested.
I
No.
do know they did mention before I left that it was 2 stack lanes, basically. That's the simple part of it. The stack lane.
Coming, turning left and.
Right. And then the last part of the meeting was Melanie and Elena talking about the treatment plant proposal out at sorry, just looking at it here. Out at Folsom Road there. Melanie, could you I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but could you just give a brief description on what you guys gave? You gave the timeline, I think, the estimated timeline.
Yeah, so this is a little outside of the scope of the committee, so I won't take up too much time as far as traffic and public safety, but the city is needing to replace the wastewater treatment plant. It was built in the 60s, and we've done a lot of add-ons and overhauls over the years to keep it, so it still was functioning, but we need to build a new one. Ideally, we could build it to the north out towards around the Eagle Creek Golf Course area. Because there's been multiple locations looked at, leaving it where it's at, moving it to well, on the other side of Timber Park to PGE property, moving it to the rock quarry, moving it to the industrial campus, moving it to Hypel Road. And there's everything, there's always like, we've always hit roadblocks. So the last suggestion from our engineer or one of the suggestions, and then the council approved moving it towards Folsom, because if we just move it to the industrial campus, even as far north in the industrial campus as we can get it, it serves who we have now inside the urban growth boundary, because it's right up against the urban growth boundary. But 20, 30 years from now, everybody when we expand the urban growth boundary, which is likely to happen in the next 20 or 30 years, it would go to the north, and then there'd have to be multiple pump stations out there pumping the wastewater back to the plant. Whereas if we can just move it far enough north, it will, as things develop over time, it flows. The elevation is such that it would just flow down to that point. And so we're running into some issues with zoning, because the place we'd really like to get it to where it's really isolated from anybody is zoned timber. And that may, there's always a way, but how much time do we have to go through a state process? So but anyway, we're looking at there. We have one site that's real close to the river, but it's also a little closer to other folks that live out there. And then we have this site that we're looking at in timber zoning, which is part of the golf course on Dowdy Road. So where everything is, there's a lot of moving parts still, but the reason we went out to that CPO meeting was just to say, this is who we are. This is who you call. This is the plans. Nothing is set in stone yet. They're really hoping they don't want a wastewater plant in their neighborhood. Who does? But this will be a top of the line. It'll, like what we have now, has no odor control. It was built, like I said, built in the 60s. It'll be completely different setup than what we've got now, and it'll produce really good effluent. In fact, the golf course would like to use that in the summertime because they run out of water. Their ponds dry up for irrigation. So that's a possibility if we can move it out there. But anyway, we were just basically there to say, this is what we're looking at. We've mailed letters to all of them, most all of them that were in the route, because we were considering, could we purchase easements from people to get our pipeline across there? And I wanted them to be able to put a face with a name on an email or on a letter. And so they knew who to contact and ask questions. And it's hard because, they ask philosophical questions like, what gives you the right to do this? And that has a legal answer, which is a land use type of a thing. And it's not, we don't want to be bad neighbors. We don't want to, it's hard to feel like you're disappointing people, but we're trying to find a good location that would be isolated. It shouldn't impact them. They won't even know it's there for the most part. We'll just do some shielding of it. And then I think it's really, the council's really looking long-term with this. And so we're pushing ahead to try to keep running into little issues, little molehills to get over. Anyway, I'm talking too long because this is not really in your realm, but that's what we were there for. So it's a project that we're working on, and hopefully in the next 2-3 weeks, we'll have a lot more things nailed down as far as what's actually going to happen.
Some meeting.
Yeah. Whew, it was a barn burner. My goodness.
I want to know their secret. They had like 50 people there at that meeting, like in the
Quite
audience.
a few,
But about half of them left after the Amasiger discussion too. So.
right?
I think I'm just kind of curious what their secret is.
The secret is get people pissed off and they'll show up.
Very true. All right. And thank you all that attended. I appreciate that and your presentation, Melanie. Let's see, 4th and Main, next on committee business, 4th and Main discussion and recommendation. All right. So what are we doing here, Melanie? Is it the memorandum from DKS?
Yes. So I included in your packet the memorandum from DKS, which is our traffic engineer. And let me get down to that portion. So because there is so much traffic on Main Street, and there's I felt it was important to have a traffic engineer take a look at that intersection right up here at Fourth and Main before we just say, yeah, let's put a stop sign in. Because it'd be better to know whether that's feasible, how it's going to work out before we just do it, although it seems like a good thing to do. So DKS did a traffic study. You can read all the details about it that are in there if you want. On page, I think it's page 6. Is it page 6? Page 5. There's in the conclusion, it gives their summary. So it's page 5 of the report, but it's page 22 of the packet. And their summary is that it doesn't meet the criteria to justify an always stop at that intersection right now. However, because we are expecting growth, they said traffic volume growth of only 10 to 15% would be enough to satisfy one of the criteria anyway. So, though it does not appear to be needed today, it may be an appropriate solution for the future, and we could choose to go ahead and implement it now as part of this improvement project. So he didn't say, don't do it. They said, you don't have to do it at this point, but since we're doing the Main Street project, now might be a good time to do it. And so I just wanted to give you the opportunity to review that and make a recommendation that I could take back to the council. We got to realize it will slow traffic down on Main Street. Kind of like the roundabout thing out at Amsager. It's going to slow traffic down. If you're going through, it's like at Carver. If you're coming from Springwater, that stoplight is great. But if you're on the highway going through, that stoplight is super annoying because it will cause a delay on Main Street because people will have to stop at the stop sign. But according to the report here, it was very, very minimal. Like, I can't remember, it was like a fraction of it, like a couple seconds per vehicle. So that's just a consideration that I wanted to point out because people now are clamoring for a stop sign. And as soon as you put one in, then you'll hear from all the people who didn't really want it. So I just thought I wanted to give you some data, some recommendation from the traffic engineer, and then let you guys discuss and see how you feel about it.
All right, what does everybody think?
Anybody? I see nobody's
I
chiming
say
in.
yes, for the sole fact is that we have a stop sign at 4th and Broadway.
Yep.
Period. We should have, I mean, I don't see 20 cars backing up from 4th and Broadway to the 224. You know what I mean? Why would a stop sign back all the way up to the highway? Just my 2 cents.
I personally agree. I think that one of the reasons we originally recommended this was because of the speeding on Main. I just think having that, on both roads makes sense. I think Main is a concern because of, well, it's not near the school right there, but still it's a concern. And I think it takes minimal growth to get to the point where they would say, yes, it's recommended. And that growth is happening. It's not going away. So that's my opinion. That's my 2 cents. John has something.
I remember when we did that modeling on Main and there was so much traffic and it was a throughfare. It was getting from one end of town to the other.
Mhm.
And I get it's right there. I expect more growth. I expect more traffic. But one of the things that we were concerned about was the utility of that road. And what does a stop sign do to the utility of that road? And I've seen enough traffic, trying to get across sometimes where I can easily see it backing up all the way to the highway at certain times of day. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I may abstain. That's cowardly. I'll vote one way or the other, I guess, but I'm not sure.
It's a hard one. The counselor has a question.
Go ahead, Counselor.
I think what they were saying is not the fact they would back up to the road. From what I'm reading in here is saying that there's not enough cars where it's an issue right now, but it will be soon. There wasn't a concern from what I can see in here that it's gonna back up to the highway. It's just saying you're gonna need one soon because there's eventually gonna be enough traffic. What turning out of that road will be a pain. And you'll need to put a stop sign there. It makes sense. But they're saying it's not enough now. So basically, putting it there isn't gonna endanger the turn from what I'm reading in here. It's just basically being, I think it's being, forward thinking, or what's the word, we do things before. Can't think of the word. Basically, it's just forward thinking. This is a good word for there, but acting ahead of time. I mean, if we're going to do it eventually, why not do it during, when there's gonna be a massive amount of change there? People are gonna expect change as it is. Might as well put a stop sign there, so that it's part of it. Because then they're gonna have a bunch of change, and then they're gonna get used to it. We're gonna have to put one in there eventually, is what they recommend. So then there's gonna be another change. So it elaborates that change out further. That's just my view on it.
Do we want to go through
Yep.
each person and just see what everybody thinks?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out also that I wasn't watching the room very well. Mitch Parson is here. And so I
Yay.
just promoted him.
Hey, what's
Been
up, Mitch?
watching, yeah, he's been watching the meeting, and I just promoted him to panelist, so you can participate now, Mitch.
Hi, Mitch.
Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I just got home from work.
No
That's
worries.
okay. We're talking right now about the last part of the packet in regards to possibly forwarding a recommendation to the city council in regards to adding 2 more stop signs at Fourth and Main. And on the second part of the study, which was conducted on March 7th of this year, was to restripe the crosswalks down by Third and Main.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm in agreement to that. And we're talking like right in front of the middle school, right? North or well, in between Clackamas River and the middle school, northeast Fourth and Main.
No, we're
We're on
doing southeast
Oh, southeast. Okay.
by Chapman's and then over by 300 Main and Harvest Market.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement to that area too. I've seen quite a bit of confusion there with people traveling on Main Street thinking that there already is a stop sign there in
Mhm.
between Fourth and Main, and it causes quite a bit of confusion.
I will second that. That's true. That happens a lot when I'm coming down to turn left on the main. People randomly just stop there thinking there's a stop sign there. It's really weird.
All right, anyone else?
Similar to John, I mean, I obviously travel that all the time, live up on the top of Regan Hill, but I guess selfishly, I'm not there during the peak time, so I don't really see how bad it can get. But yes, there's certainly a lot of confusion. People stop there all the time when they're not supposed to, and it does back up and gets annoying sometimes. So I can see it both ways. Future growth would be great, but it's gonna be change. Obviously, people are gonna have issue with change for at least initially.
They'll have an issue with everything we do.
Have an issue with not doing it as well.
All right,
So if somebody wants to make a motion, you could just make a motion and take a vote. Or if you're not comfortable with that, you could.
Yeah, let's
just-
vote. Make a motion to vote.
So what's the motion would be to recommend a stop sign at Fourth and Main?
Yes, how about, let's do that one first. If
Okay,
it passes, you're good to go. If not, you can do a different motion.
is that the motion you wanted to make?
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
so
So
I'll second it.
okay, have a first and a second. Any more discussion on this? No?
Doesn't look
Okay.
like it.
I'm good with
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
And any nays? Okay, motion passes to.
Any abstentions?
No, any abstentions? Sorry. Thank you, Melanie. And also the recommendation for the painting at Third and Main also. Would that be in the same one, Melanie, or need to do another one for that?
You could, why don't we just do another one to follow the recommendation for the crosswalks
Okay,
at Third and Main.
Okay, do I have a motion to, for recommendation for the Third and Main upgrades, for the restripe, crosswalks?
Can I just say so moved? Okay.
Yes, I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, excellent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Melanie. And let's see.
That's why you're
On
so
to,
highly paid to make those tough decisions.
appreciate that. And let's see, committee, on to committee reports and comments. Do we have any?
John has one.
Go for it, John.
So at a previous meeting, we were talking about public defecation, public urination, all of that kind of stuff, and were there any ordinances to prevent that? And Melanie sent back the park regulations, but what it looks like to me is that it's only for public parks. It doesn't apply to our sidewalks in town. Is that accurate?
Not how I interpreted it. I'd have to double check on it. I thought it was for every place. What code number? Let me pull it up.
It's 12-28-020 park regulations.
Oh, okay, was there, so that is for the park. I think we had them in a different place also. Did we not? Is that all I sent you?
That's all I'm not really tech savvy, so that's all I got, but it doesn't mean that's not all you sent. Where I'm going is, I would definitely be interested in eventually, once we sorted it out, recommending, if we don't have those sorts of ordinances, recommending that we have those sort of ordinances here in town so that there is some kind of recourse and hopefully consequence if that sort of activity goes on. My concern as of this week is I'm reading about something called the right to rest law that Oregon's trying to push through. And what happens if Oregon does pass that right to rest law? What impact would that have on city ordinances that we've passed if we get that far? Are you familiar with that right to rest thing?
I thought
Yes.
that was already in effect and we need to adjust our codes for July 1st. To make sure.
The counselor has.
Counselor,
information.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to what you're about those ordinances, 9.12.030, littering and defouling of public property and private property. That's gonna cover
Oh, okay.
the fouling and it uses other waste matter in there as well, which technically could cover it.
Okay.
So we can always define by adding specifics of defecation in there if we need to, but based upon that, that's gonna cover what you're looking for, and that's on public, it says public and private property too, so.
Right. So that sounds like that covers it. And then that leads to then, okay, so we've got that. Do we have the capability to enforce it? And then the leads then to, it sounds like there's already some right to rest types of things in the works that we're going to need to change our ordinances to support. And so does that mean that if the state passes the like a law, we have to comply? Or is there a way to lack of a better term, and I don't mean anything bad by this, but be a sanctuary city?
You want to speak?
We're bound by, see, the way that the laws work in Oregon is we can make more stricter laws, but we can't make less strict laws. So as long as it's not in direct violation to a constitutional right that's identified in both our state and federal constitution, if they make a law that is upheld by that one, we're required to enforce that law as well. We can make it more strict if we see fit, but we can't make it less strict. So we can't countermand a law. We won't have the authority for that. And like I said, unless there's a justification that is a direct contradiction to a constitutional right. So
And so I was just gonna say, I will be working with the city attorney on it to make sure our code is not in violation of that. And right now, I don't necessarily believe that it is. It's definitely not illegal to sleep outside. But there has to be, take into consideration health and safety is a big factor. And then also, access, like if we come to work and there's somebody that's sleeping right in front of City Hall door when we're ready to open, that was fine if they weren't making a mess as we just referred to. But then they need to, not be blocking sidewalks, not be blocking entrance to buildings. Our parks are closed from dusk to dawn. And so there shouldn't be people there, but we do need to make sure that they have a place that they could sleep.
Yeah,
That is
if
safe.
you read House Bill 3115, let's get that, 3115. There's a lot of stuff in there, but the key point is that is in right in the very first line, it says basically, except for ordinances, and it gives you a couple ordinances, I think it's 207.079 and 077. Always forget exactly what it is. You can look it up and see the first line. Those particular ordinances, that 3115 does not overrule those. And those are the ones that we're required by law to follow, which identify how to deal with homelessness. And in those ones, there's very specific requirements on those. One is that, if you're going to remove a camp, it's that you have to notify law enforcement. They have to post a notice for 24 hours. Have to notify like a housing authority, like basically the DHS or some sort of social service that has the opportunity to relocate them to a place that is actually that service's job to relocate them. And then after 24 hours, those items can be removed and have to be held for up to 30 days in a way that is not, that they can easily access them. And that is what a summary what the law says. It does say you can't make it, you can't make it illegal to sleep in public, because that would be constituting as you couldn't sleep in a park, even if you're just a regular citizen out there and you have a home, you couldn't sleep in a park either. So you can't make it basically illegal to be homeless, means that you can't make it illegal to sleep in a park, but you can make it illegal to set up a camp, to make a camp location. And then, of course, as based upon the Lord's recommendations, it's about health and safety. So it's not safe for them to build a structure that potentially could fall and collapse on them or other people. It's not safe for them to block normal routes of travel. It's not safe for them to have, situations where there might be needles and things, or that are kids can get into. It's whatever the condition might be. That is not safe. And so there's a right to make the public safe, and we have an obligation to make the public safe in that regards. It gets very tricky. That's why the lawyers can be working on how to handle that. We can't make it illegal for people to be homeless. It's our job to try to help them. But at the same time, we also have to think of the other citizens too that need to be safe and have to be able to uphold our city as well. So hope I answered the question.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Casey and then Carrie. Just so you know whose order it was.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You have to forgive me, but I honestly don't know the answer to this. On the city council meetings, Counselor, does the sheriff's office come every month and give you a briefing? Do you get a briefing every month by them?
We don't get a briefing every month, but I think they try to make it the same as they do here. They can't always make it. So like they weren't there yesterday. I think didn't he come the one before that? The first of the month? Yeah. James.
And then your counselor meetings will precede our committee meetings, right? By a day. Yours are
Yeah.
Mondays. We're the next day on Tuesday. Okay, that answers one of my questions.
I could also say, the plan is to have the chief here at all of your meetings, at least as many as he can make. And then have a report out to the council at least quarterly, and have other, sometimes the deputy that's on duty can be in here in case there's questions that arise or something. But since you are in place to hear the monthly updates, I haven't been having him come monthly to the council, but he does want to still stay involved, be around, know what's going on.
That was my next
Yeah.
question. I feel like our committee's set up to deal with public safety, and for us to be able to really give our honest opinion about things, we need to know what's going on
Mhm.
in the public safety sector, which means we need a representative to be here to say, hey, here's what's happened last month.
Mhm.
These are the crime trends we're seeing or something. So we have something to go on.
Right.
And so I was going to ask you, have they been invited every month and just not being able to make it except for the 2 times or?
Yes, they have been invited every month.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, I feel like we're kind of at a disadvantage. We don't know. We need somebody from the sheriff's office to come in and say, hey, here's what's going on.
Mhm.
So then on our next meeting, we've had time to digest that and tackle the issues that we're set up to deal with or to, public safety issues. And I feel like it's not working out that way.
Mhm.
Yes, I know that they're busy. I understand that. I get it. But can we have a backup if the chief is unable to have somebody else who he can designate? So we always have somebody to come in. Because that's the whole purpose of this committee is traffic and public safety. And we're speculating on what we think. It's hearsay. Well, I heard a citizen tell me this, I heard a citizen tell me that, which is good. But you understand what I'm saying?
Right,
We
yes,
need,
yeah.
we need that base and we need it every month for us to do our job the right way. With that being said, why do we not have the fire department included in that? Because they're every bit as a part of public safety as the sheriff's office are. I would suggest, and Jim, you can, do what you need to do with this, but I really feel like it would be nice to have a representative from the fire department also come in to just give us that we could put them at the front of the meeting. So I know that they're on duty. It's right across the street. We don't need to tie them up for an hour or 2 hours like our meetings go. Have them be at the front so they can get back across the street. They wouldn't need to stay for the whole thing, but kind of give us a rundown. What kind of calls did they have the previous month? Are they having any issues with traffic, getting the fire rigs around certain things? What fire hazards do they see that we need to maybe address with the public? I mean, you got open burns going on in certain areas. Now we got fire season coming up and all that stuff. It'd be nice to tie in not just law enforcement, but the fire. It's just as important as a law enforcement. So can we not have, and it doesn't have to be a high ranking official with the fire department. They can just have somebody say, hey, go across the street, address this committee meeting for us, kind of give them this 5-minute talk about what's going on, and then they can go. I think it'd just be more information. And can we not tie in like stuff to our Facebook page from the fire department, like we're trying to do with the sheriff's department? Things that they want the public to know could go onto our Facebook page as well. I think we kind of forgot about the fire department in the public safety thing, I feel like, because I really don't think we talk about it that often. So that's all I got. Sorry, it's kind of quick, but
Do you want Counselor Lickey to address that before Carrie goes, Jim, or do you want to?
Yeah, that's fine. If Joel's responding to Casey's comment, yes. please.
Yes, I got some things we can work on that with. Can we talk to the chief? They have a PIO through the sheriff's office, that if he can't make it, maybe they can send the PIO out, or they could jump online for that, because
I
that's
was
their,
gonna recommend that the chair or somebody go ahead and reach out to them. I think that might be better
Yeah.
received than just city staff saying, hey, will you come to a committee meeting? I think they would probably, it would be great if the committee wanted to reach out to the district and.
yeah, something to request then would be, ask them if they can't have the chief make it that committee meeting, then to schedule the PIO to come out or show up online or something to present, because they have the same information, they can present the same things. Same with requests for the fire department. Now, to understand the difference between the fire department and the police department is contracted directly with the city. They have an obligation to report to the city what's going on with with the law enforcement part of it because of the contract. Whereas the fire department doesn't have the obligation. They want to, they like to work with us. We have a good relationship with them, but they don't have a contractual obligation. But they have a PIO as well. That's a public information officer that they could probably send over, I'm sure.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought the first time you were talking about the fire district too.
No,
You
I
were
was talking
talking
about
PIO for Clackamas.
Yes,
Sure.
Clackamas.
Mendoza.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring
Yeah,
to, is
okay,
the
so I
PIO.
could check on that, but I think for fire, I think that they would appreciate.
Yeah, just give them a call, that I'm sure they'll send a PIO. over for
and
that.
I understand. I mean, that's why I was asking when the city council meetings are in conjunction with ours, which is the day before. And it would be tough for the chief to have to go to the city council, which would be more important to address than our committee. I understand that. And then the very next night, come back and give us the same information. So maybe it could be that part of what he presents to the council, could be shown to us at our meeting so that we can at least, he doesn't have to be here, but at least we have something to go on. Because right now, when he doesn't show up and he doesn't zoom in, we got nothing.
I think the priority is for him to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be
and then
great.
He can come to the
But
second.
it's
the
2 nights in
second-
a row and that may be
Well,
tough.
we have
But the
2
fire
council
department,
meetings
if they
a
go
month.
to the city council and the next night we're wanting them here, I get it. That's a little much.
I hear you, that's 2 nights in a row.
Well, we have 2 council meetings a month. Invite him to the second council meeting, which gives him almost a 2-week period where he wants to be here for that, and he can show up to theirs in the first part, and that,
This is
balances.
like
Well, it
this-
would be the first council meeting because your second council meeting is the one that's right before us.
oh, okay, then whatever, I'm saying, switch to meeting that he's invited to come to.
Right, so
Something to
they
give us
split it
information
up.
that we're not getting.
Yeah, and the thing is, the purpose of the meeting was for you guys to be the point in which law enforcement talks to, converts with, and then you provide things up to us,
Mhm.
so that it's less that the city council has to try to ingest, and there's kind of like a filtered approach to it, which is kind of one of the recommendations I was gonna try to make, if I got a chance to tonight, was there's a disconnect between citizens and law enforcement here in the city. As we know, they don't want to report things. And so one of the things that might be something to consider is to maybe talk about approach where citizens can have a place to bring complaints and concerns to, where it's your job to look at, investigate, and then bring them to the law enforcement. So that way the citizens don't have to feel like they have to report concerns about officers, approaches, or things like that. They can have a filter of a complaint, not a crime report. I'll be clear about that, not a crime report. They need to report those to directly to law enforcement. What if maybe they had a bad run-in with an officer? They don't feel like they can report directly to the sheriff's office. Maybe they can bring it, they have a way to report it to the Traffic and Public Safety Committee, which and then can converse with basically act as an intermediary to try to solve the citizen's problem and try to work it out with the sheriff's office. That way you guys can be representative to the citizens, which is part of what the job is we wanted there. So that might be a little thing to work out and navigate. And of course, we probably want to talk to the rest of the council and see what they think about that. But I think it might be a way to start to heal that approach and be the intermediary between citizens and law enforcement. And then at some point, maybe they can be, they can feel comfortable going to law enforcement when they see those problems are being addressed. So.
And
But
we-
it's something to consider about. I would recommend talking and thinking on it. And then this might be something we need to make sure that we have a legal stance we can do as well to have something like that. It's almost like a citizen accountability type of groups. They have them everywhere. So I don't see why it wouldn't be an issue for a contract city to have the same thing.
My
So,
concern would be to do that at a public meeting versus maybe have somebody set up a meeting with staff and report
Maybe
it
a
directly to
subcommittee.
the chief versus like having a personnel issue at an open meeting.
yeah,
Um,
it's not really a personnel issue. I wouldn't recommend, obviously airing details, but you do have a point there. And that's where you need to work that out. It could be you have a subcommittee that looks at that, reviews it, decides what needs to be talked to in the public part of the meeting. Consider it, think about it, and then we can check into the legal options and then bring it to the council and see if they had an agreement with it. And you guys maybe can come back with a plan for us on that one. So.
Sounds good.
Okay, Carrie was next, Jim.
Excellent.
Yes, Counselor. How is it possible? Have we passed the stage of posting signs with an ordinance number on it, like no overnight sleeping, no loitering, no anything like that in different areas? Does that even count anymore?
Technically, you're supposed to have those posted in places where you can't be camping. But that's primarily that's for private property, not public property. At least that's last I read, so. But that's more of a probably question for the city lawyer. Can we?
Yeah, we can, I'll work on that with the lawyer, with our attorney. We did have those signs posted in the library parking lot, like no overnight camping. And an ordinance number was on there. We had them at the portal. We have kind of gotten away from that and maybe we need to redo, after we revamp the code to be current and then to, so that people know where it's not okay to be here, but where can I go? This is where I can go.
Yeah, there's a vehicle milling right now that's been parked there for a few days in the
Where
library
at?
parking lot. Actually, it's where the new building is. Correct,
Okay.
building. So that's interesting that you mentioned, it, but it is posted there, huh?
It was, I don't know if it has, if it's still there, because the parking lot kind of got taken over by the construction crew for us. I'm not sure if it's still there. It did used to be there. But yeah, we could talk afterwards about the vehicle. and-
Yeah, the ordinance, by the way, that deal with how to address that is 203.077 and 203.079. The text isn't in front of me, but that's the one that the House Bill 3115 identifies. So that's the one you'd want to look up to, see exactly what that says. Now, does being talked about being posted or not, what the requirement is.
Thank you.
I
Thank
have
you.
some comments if nobody else does, but I'll wait until everyone else is done. And
Just,
before-
this part of the meeting, you know, is where we're finding about the unreported crime stuff. And it's been really impactful. I get a lot out of that in a kind of a bad way.
Mhm.
And I think we've already had instances where there's been some blowback on people that did report. And so the idea that everyone was talking about is be it a subcommittee or some process where these things can be reported by the community and then reviewed before being talked about in a public manner is makes a lot of sense if we're already dealing with bullies.
Mhm. I agree with that.
Maybe there could be an advocate, kind of a program where they know that somebody could contact one or two of the members of the committee, and then you could meet with either Lieutenant Mendoza or whoever it would be that would need to meet, but you would be like there as an advocate for this person who needed to talk to them about it also. So they don't have to be alone and can feel
Yeah, I like
supported.
that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's data.
Community advocate.
I think that's a good idea because I mean, yeah, like he said, we've seen even there's a business in town that's getting blowback for just stating what they saw happen right outside their business and that they were afraid and they're getting bullied for it. So I think
Well,
that's a
is
good
that
option.
bullying coming from the sheriff's office?
No,
or
it's coming from
the-
other businesses. Mhm.
I will also say, I see a problem in that if a citizen comes to me with an issue that's with an officer or criminal issue that they're afraid to approach law enforcement. Now I'm subject, if this thing goes to a trial in court, to be called in because I'm now part of this. I could have to possibly could be called in to testify about something. You're kind of opening yourself up. I'm just saying that, I'm not saying that would happen every time, but that's something that you would have to, whoever this advocate's gonna be, you know, would have to make sure the city attorney says, no, that wouldn't happen, but I think that could happen.
That's
If
why I
it
was saying
depends on
we
what the
talk to
complaint
them.
is and how serious the complaint is. You may end up getting yourself, us into something we don't need to be a part of. This may need to be
Right.
just strictly between that citizen and the law
Yeah,
enforcement.
is that what Councilor Licky was saying? It shouldn't be in relation to a crime necessarily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the crime itself is something that they need to work directly with the law enforcement on, but
Right.
for example of, hey, I don't feel comfortable approaching to report a crime because of X, and that's not the crime itself, but the X reason, like, hey, I was mistreated last time I talked to an officer, they talked down to me, they didn't believe me, they treated me like I was as guilty as it was.
Right.
That is a different issue versus the actual crime itself.
I agree.
That's what I was referring to, is to be that intermediary to work with the sheriff's office. If they don't want to approach, if they want to have a way to file a complaint against the officer, that the city, being the fact that we are the contract city, can bring that to the sheriff's office to approach it, whether it's anonymous or not, how that would be approached. And like I said, we need to navigate that carefully to see what our limitations should be on that with our city attorney. But the point wasn't to be something where we're advocating for them to report their crime. That needs to be done with them, between them and law enforcement. We should never be in that position. It should be more of, hey, I don't trust law enforcement because of X.
Right.
We should be there to try to help them solve what X is.
Okay, and I mean, I understand that and I agree with that. But I also think it could still somewhat roll into that is if, when I was doing what I did, if a citizen complained on me, my supervisor's job is to go talk to everybody involved in that situation to get as much information. Well, if I'm the advocate, that supervisor is going to come to me and say, what did he tell you about this officer? And you're still, oh, it's not a trial issue. I get that, but you're still opening yourself up to have to give a written testimony, a verbal statement or something. It's,
I get what you're saying, but there's also a sense of where you have a, I forget the word is, where you have a sense where you're not held accountable for certain things because you're operating as an extension of the city. What is that word?
Like a good Samaritan?
Not the Good Samaritan. There's a thing like, for example, if I'm doing something on behalf of the city gets sued, I can't be personally sued because of it. I forget what the word is for that.
Is it obligation?
Not obligation, but there's a word for that. And I'm saying is you have you were law
The
enforcement. right,
lawyer
Casey?
would know, right?
So you know what I'm talking about too. If
Right.
you're performing your job and you're within the scope of your duties,
right.
then as long as you didn't go outside the scope, you can't be personally sued. The same concept would approach to that as well, that disconnect piece. And I don't know the extent of it. That's why the attorney would be
Right, I agree. I
to
agree.
help us navigate what those barriers are. But we have an obligation as a city to represent our citizens and not leave them out there in the wind.
Sure.
And so we got to have an ability to do that, even if that takes a little bit of risk on the city. In some cases, it's our obligation, it's our law enforcement that we're putting in place there. If they're not comfortable with our law enforcement and it's a problem, one citizen's one issue, but when we have multiple reports of the same issue, a distrust of that, it's our job to try to find a way to heal that
Sure.
before it gets worse. And so that means that we have to have, even if it's a narrow gap in which we can do that to represent and advocate on behalf of the people, we need to find what that gap is where we can operate in that position and then do so. That's our
Right.
obligation to be representatives of
Yeah.
it. So.
How have you seen it handled before, Casey? Have you ever had a situation like that where people didn't want to contact or they were, it's a new situation to me. I have not experienced it.
I mean, I was a cop for 31 years, but it was in Oklahoma City. It's, the mentality towards law enforcement is much different than it is out here, much different. So I'm still learning how things are done here. But in Oklahoma City, you know, if somebody had a complaint on me, their job was to contact my supervisor. And my supervisor would then come out and talk to that person making the complaint, lodging it against me. Talk to any witnesses that may have seen or heard what happened, and then speak with me. But anybody who was tied in, who had any particular knowledge of it, was going to get interviewed. And that's where I'm afraid if citizens are coming to me because I'm on this committee, I'm now gonna, which I'm not adverse to. I mean, honestly, because I've done this stuff, so it doesn't scare me to go and stand in for them. But I'm saying I wanted to make sure the committee knows that that's something that could happen, or are they willing to, if this turned into something bigger than, sometimes the complaint turns into something much larger, sometimes. And if that thing blows up, you know, whoever got that information may be called into court. And is that
well,
person willing to do that? So.
Keep in mind too, that sometimes, and by the way, it's called the doctrine of qualified immunity is the actual term I'll start looking for, which protects state and local officials, including law enforcement officers, from individual liability unless the official violated a clearly established constitutional right, as defined here at Google. But you know, as you know, sometimes when you write a report as a law enforcement officer, that also can stand in as a statement, just like an official statement can as well, without the requirement of a appearance in court. So when you're acting as an advocate, a report sometimes is enough to get it started. But if it gets to that point, that's where, again, our attorney would say, this is our buffer zone where we can go to this point. But anything after here is going to put us in a position where we probably shouldn't be. So we need to hand that off to X, whether it's the counties that approach some sort of advocacy or legal team or whatever. Leave our purview and go to that point. That's where we need our. attorney to figure that
So
out.
what you're saying is anyone who came to us with a concern, before we contacted law enforcement, we would contact the city attorney to explain where we're at, right? And get his guidance before we stepped in and notified law enforcement?
Wouldn't make more sense just to have him give us our buffer zones from the start and
Yeah,
then prep
basically
the people?
talk about this. If it's necessary, talk to me first. If it's necessary, stay clear of it.
Okay, I mean, as long as we have guidance, somebody that's official, an attorney that represents us and would
Yeah.
be willing to go to
It's best
bat,
for
you know,
people
I
just to
agree.
go directly to, reach out to staff to get in touch with the law enforcement would be best. But John,
Yeah.
what did you want to?
Well, it ties in directly in what I do at the aspect of healthcare I'm in, we're deemed mandatory reporters.
Mhm.
So if there's something that we see, we have to report it. And so with the attorney or whatever, because there's value in hearing the crimes that are happening that aren't being reported. That's good data that the sheriff's department isn't getting. And I want to be able to continue to get that in whatever format we end up setting up. But then having guidance on at what point are we mandatory reporters? Do we have to report to law enforcement? If we hear about someone siphoning gas, does that hit the bar?
Well, that's again, reporting the crime. That's not what we want to get into. We want to get into, hey, I'm not going to report something to law enforcement because last time I did, they were, I don't know, biased towards me because I had a criminal history, or because, this person mistreated me because I'm a woman, or whatever it might be. I don't know. There's something there that they don't want to report because there's a distrust. And this may not be the right route to heal that, but we need to do something to heal that and try to start that route. And so this was just my concept to come up with it. And there may be too many legal parameters to this. And again, that's why I recommend we talk to the attorney. He may say, you're safe in these zones, operate in that might be a starting point. But we need to find something as a city to try to heal that trust in that law enforcement. And yes, they're not without work in this process as well. They have to work on it as well to heal that, because we're trying to get the citizens to connect and to trust law enforcement in there. And many of them do, but there is a section that aren't. And they're getting victimized in that area, and they're not, and I hate to use that word, but they're not reporting those crimes, and they need to feel comfortable doing that and trusting that the city is being that they're the contract holder, and then that center point, we are the center point of that connection to make sure that we are there to advocate, because we're not there to advocate on behalf of law enforcement. We're law enforcement's customer in this case, and the people are who we represent. They are our packing. They are who we are, the people. And so it is our job to make sure that being that center point, that if there's a sickness between reporting, that we find a way to heal that sickness, to get that corrected. Even if that means we start the point and then let them finish it, we need to figure out a way to fix that brokenness, because it's not going to get any better.
Can we just agree to have the lawyer look into this and then have him
That's what
tell
I'm
us?
trying to say.
Okay.
I can check with the
This is
city
going back and
attorney
forth.
and just I would recommend to just chew on that a little bit. And maybe there's a better way, because we have 3 deputies that are consistently in town. And then we have a lot of the other deputies that are, roaming around. So when you call 911 or non-emergency, you don't know who's going to get there the fastest. But we have specific deputies that work in town, and maybe if these people who don't want to just have any random deputy show up, they want to talk to a specific deputy. If it's not urgent, they could use the drop box out front of City Hall and just say, I need to talk to either Deputy Bigler or Deputy Normand or Deputy Olson. And
But Melanie, that process is already there. I mean, any citizen can
anybody-
call the
yeah,
non-emergency
anybody
number and say, I would like to speak with officer so-and-so.
they could do, yeah, so
I
I
mean,
don't
why
know.
even get us involved in that? I don't understand
I don't quite understand.
that
either.
rationale.
I don't quite
Well,
understand either.
It's what
so-
our experience has been so far
Yeah.
with this committee.
Mhm.
It's been a forum for people to report things that have happened that they did report for whatever reason. I mean, some it may be a trust issue, but like my neighbor that told me about all the vehicles getting siphoned, he did report it the first time and didn't bother the 6 ensuing times or however many it was, because it was a waste of time and nothing happened before. So, and that's a separate issue than trust, or maybe it's not, I don't know. But right now, what's been happening is we're finding out about these primary issues because of things that have happened, which happen to be crime, and that's why they come up. So
Maybe this is the best way is just, I was thinking if somebody was gonna come and say, I had a bad run-in with so-and-so. And I was like, I don't think an open meeting is the best place to discuss that. But the way that it has been happening where people are just free to come and say what their concern has been. Maybe that's just the best way to keep doing it. But I can also check with the city attorney and advise.
You could also open up an anonymous, a way for them to anonymously report concerns online.
There is a tip
True.
line that's an anonymous tip line.
Well, that's through the sheriff's office.
Sheriff's
I'm talking about
office.
something they can make an anonymous complaint. Don't give them the option to put a name in there. Just say, as a citizen, I have a concern about X and have it
Oh.
automatically sent to the committee. And then they can bring it up because it's not giving any specific names. And this, if there's
It's
an
hard to
officer,
deal
if
with.
there's an officer name, you strike it out.
It's hard to deal with too vague, I think, of issues. Somebody we don't know who they are. They send in something random. I don't know what you do with that, but.
Like I said, it's something to mull over. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
decided tonight or
Okay.
anything else. It's just an idea and it may not be something we can deal with,
yeah,
but
Thanks
it's
for your consideration on it.
definitely, thank you.
Carrie had something to say, but did he go to the bathroom or something?
I think so.
Okay, I guess I can say mine while we wait for Carrie to get back. If that's okay, Jim, because I know you want to be last. So I hate to bring a somber mood to the meeting, but we have a fundraiser happening on Sunday at the fire station. It's a breakfast. It's going from 7:30 a.m. to noon. The fire department's putting it on. They're getting some help from ECW with volunteers. We're all coming together to help this family. The Nelson family is oh my gosh, they've done so much for this community. Brooke, the husband, he is a volunteer firefighter. He also helps his wife, Chris, rescuing animals in our town for 20+ years. They give in every way possible. They've volunteered with me many times. I've spent volunteer moments with them. They're incredible. And what Chris is dealing with and what they're dealing with is a hard time right now. They need help with medical bills. And we're hoping that this breakfast can help cover that. There's also a GoFundMe attached. If you go online and you look at the fire department's Facebook, they have the information about the breakfast. There's also the GoFundMe attached to it. If you can't make it to the breakfast but want to give, that's another way to do it. I encourage as many people to show up as possible because not only if you show up to volunteer or show up to eat breakfast or any way possible to show up for this family, I know that would mean a lot to them. Even if you can't give monetarily, just to be there for them. This is an incredibly fast-paced situation. They haven't had a lot of time to get used to it. Right before this meeting, I was there with them today. So we brought our dog to go visit and she's awesome. So I just wanted to encourage everyone to come show up for a family in our community that has given so much to us. We need to give back to them. My other point was, thank you everybody for being here. I love our committee. I think we do a lot of good work. Everybody here is highly involved and it's really encouraging to see. I've seen other committee meetings where it's not quite that way. They have a hard time keeping people involved. And I think everyone here really genuinely cares about this community. So thank you for that. And Carrie's back now, Jim.
Mr. Dobbs.
Yeah, this is good stuff. I enjoyed just everybody here and wanting to get things done. And I think that's the drive here is the voice of the people and getting things done. I just thank everybody here tonight for being here. I'm glad I'm here. I'm still on the learning curve, but it's a good learning curve and want to change things for the community. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, definitely wrapping it up here. It is nice to see everyone here and, we all come from different backgrounds, but we are definitely all contributing 100%. It's nice to see everyone here is involved, whether their backgrounds or their work or what they do and volunteer. has so much impact in different aspects of Estacada, whether it is the police department, the fire department, Estacada Community Watch, the American Legion, businesses, the food carts. People are coming to us because they're concerned and they know that, I mean, just look at our committee business tonight. I think I was only gonna send Melanie just a couple of things and look what happened. We went into almost 7 things that we had to discuss this evening. So I appreciate everyone coming and being prepared. Last night was my first time giving budget recommendations at the city council. I was on Zoom also, so that they didn't see my knees knocking. I didn't see that I'm nervous. But I made sure that, you know, everyone knew about what we wanted in our events this year with Neighborhood Watch and the materials and the events that we wanted to do with Estacada High School and the other schools with active shooter drills and, you know, definitely the crosswalk safety. Mr. Dobbs with the mock-ups and the streets and the sidewalks, evacuations and park safety. We got that in there of all the communities we're gonna be helping out. Budgeted for the police reports, citations, the specific programs that we're gonna have throughout the year, the National Night Out, and perhaps a child seat safety class and some other things. But I definitely appreciate all the input. And that was 4,400 that we all agreed upon and sent to the council, and the other 29,000, which was going to Public Works recommendation. So again, I appreciate all your hard work on doing that. And does anyone else have anything before I adjourn the meeting?
Do I get to hit the gavel?
Absolutely. No one else? Melanie, do you have anything?
Nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Well, I now adjourn the Traffic and Public Safety Committee this month. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.